Welcome back to the Rebel's Edge, where Pete Najarian and I will be breaking down for you the top breakdowns in the market. But you know what? There are actually a couple winners, and we're going to show you which ones those are, as well as discuss Cooper. And you know who Cooper is? Cooper Flagg? Well, Pete knows, and he's going to bring the heat on Cooper, Flagg, and Duke. Bang!
Here we go. It's official. I got to tell you, John, the up and down, the yo-yo moves of the market have been absolutely obscene and crazy and everything, but it's been going in one direction. The yo-yos decided to go more on the negative than the positive of late, especially with the Dow. Holy smokes.
If I were to use your analogy, Pete, the string is much longer to the downside and much shorter to the upside.
Yeah, I would say
At least for now.
Yeah.
At least for now, that string is like this to the downside and like this to the upside.
Yeah, it's something.
Folks, that's Pete Najarian. I'm Jon Najarian. We are the co-founders of Market Rebellion. Always encourage you guys to go check out Market Rebellion. In a moment after the Fantastic Futures, we'll tell you to scan that QR code if you'd still like to come to Vegas. But let's get started, Pete, with macro. And as usual, macro kind of dominating yet again. And this time around, Pete, I'm going to say, instead of just saying it's tariffs, it's China. Chinese vehicle sales rebounded by, get this, 34% year over year. Wow. That's what turning loose the banking system, which is basically the Chinese Communist Party. That's what that'll do, Pete. When you turn all that money loose, people might go out and start buying cars. Imagine that. They did in China. What do you got, Pete?
Yeah, I would agree with you on that, John. But I also will say to everybody, let's not always believe everything we hear from China, from Russia, and some of the rest of these son of a bees. That's something that nobody ever likes to talk about, John. I remember when you and I used to be at a different network, and we would bring that up, and they'd, don't say that. Well, it's true. It's absolutely true. And by the way, they're not capitalists. It starts with a C. Let's see. Communists, just to keep this all day. So, and that's not a political statement. It's just a fact. And so just keep that in mind. That all being said, these tariffs, John, going back and forth, going from 25% to 50% with our friends up north. I mean, this has become something of a tit for tat sort of a deal, right? And we'll see where this ends, but there's certainly, I have more confidence in who's got the stronger hand, and it ain't the people up north. So we're going to have to see how this plays out. It is negative for now. If we go out several weeks or maybe a little bit further than that, I don't think it's going to be as negative on the markets as what we're seeing right now. Right now, it's just sort of a full court sort of a deal where they're doing a press, John. But at some point, the winner is going to be us, and it's just a matter of time. So looking forward to that. But for right now, that's part of the reason we're in such a bumpy market.
Well, Pete, for Fantastic Futures, I'm going to hit Bitcoin again, and it's going to sound like a broken record, but guess what? We're at 80,000 again. This has been a level, folks, where we get down to it and we tend to bounce. Now, we did trade through it. We were through it in the last 24 hours, and we're up $1,200 to be back over 80,000 per US dollar. But this is something that I think people should be paying attention to. As much as anything, Pete, this is risk on. And right now, they're starting to say, at this level, I'm a little more risk on. What do you got, Pete?
Well, I'm going to throw it at the VIX again, John, because of the fact of where we are. We today dang near hit that 30 level. We hit all the way up to 29.50. That was the highs. We've pulled back and forth, but the low of the day has been around 27. So we're holding on to this volatility. It's pretty interesting to see where we are when you consider just a month ago we were trading 15. Yes, 15. And now here we are, double that, basically. So that part's all very interesting for me as far as the Fantastic Futures. We did have a big option closing. Somebody who had bought the March 20s against the 25s, $5 call spread, Well, how'd they do on that? I'd say they did pretty damn good because of where we are right now. So taking that off as well, John, they didn't add to it, they didn't roll it, but they were just taking that off and taking off some really nice profits. And I think we can say that there's still a lot more out there. But that being said, it kind of makes me wonder, John, are we sort of sniffing at a lower end of the market where maybe we start to move a little bit to the upside? We'll see. I'd like to see what the next VIX trade looks like to make that call, but we'll find out probably pretty soon.
Yeah, I'm going to say, Pete, that when we heard from the pit, because we got it direct from the pit, folks, this morning, that somebody had sold that over 100,000 times, I think, Pete. That spread, that call spread. Now, this is something that 50 Cent usually buys. So if 50 Cent is hands out pushing like this for a $5 spread to sell it at whatever it was, $2.30 or whatever, Pete, that tells me that 50 might be taking some money off the table here. Now, he or she still have hundreds of thousands of contracts open, but short term, this might not be such a dumb thing to take some of that big money off the table, Pete. And that's just what I think 50's doing here. All right, folks, we hope for many of you that are traveling to Vegas that you're getting ready for a great couple days, or if you're only at the Market Rebellion side, known as RebelCon, well, we're welcoming you, of course, on Saturday, the 22nd of March, out in Las Vegas. You can still join us. There are some discounted tickets because a large educator gave back some tickets after they sold a whole bunch. So to your benefit, there are some seats. So if you'd like to join us in Las Vegas, March 22nd, that's a Saturday, we are going to be bringing the heat, telling you about best recovery trades, best trades to reduce risk, best trades to protect your portfolio, all of that. Only in Vegas, 22nd of March. So if you've been on the fence thinking about it, and then you're watching the market do what the market's doing, and you're not 50 Cent, you should probably think about joining us. So scan that QR code or go to RebelCon. That's marketrebellion.com/rebel, REBELCON, and you could be joining us. By the way, Pete, you and I are going to be on News Nation tonight at 5:45. Eastern time. That should be fun. Connell McShane again hosting us and wanting to talk about, I'm sure, tariffs.
You think?
Among other things. But Connell's a great host. We love going on with him. We'll be on at 5:45 p.m. this evening, folks. All right, Pete, let's talk about HSAI. Why? Well, because, we sort of teased it that there are some stocks that are doing okay with everything else not doing so great. One of those sectors, of course, is China because of all that money they're throwing at the markets. Talked about that when we talked about macro. But when you look at HSAI, the Hesai Group, it's still up 40% on the day, Pete. And the reason? Well, they did a deal with Mercedes-Benz for smart driving cars. And Mercedes seems to like this deal, and the market seems to like what it's going to do for HSAI.
Yeah, they absolutely do, John. And this is something where if this was going to try to come to the U.S., it probably would have gotten the Heisman. They're going to probably hold it back. But going into Europe and going with the Mercedes, this is a heck of a deal, John. And when you look at it, how about the fact that it did hit 52-week highs? A lot of these Chinese ETFs, as a matter of fact, have been performing pretty nicely of late as well, John. So a lot to it. When you look at this company, by the way, the cash to debt being 1.5 billion, I'd say financially they're pretty secure. They've got a lot of good things with this whole smart driving cars and all of the rest. And it's going to be interesting. I mean, they talked about geopolitical risks that they're taking on, and they're having a little bit of pushback. I wonder who that is, U.S. So I think what you're seeing out of Mercedes is, hey, you know what? We got our own way of doing things, and this is okay. So this could be a really interesting partnership of sorts, John. And I'll tell you, that's why it's up 40%. It's near some of the highest levels it's ever been. It certainly is hitting new 52-week highs today.
Yeah, traded up to almost $23 a share today, folks. Mid-November, you could have bought this name for $4 a share. Pull it up, folks. The middle of November, HSAI. And you know what, Pete? Way back when we did have some unusual activity when it was a $6 or a $7 stock. Now, we don't still have it. Those options have expired. So I'm not patting ourselves on the back saying, oh, we deserve credit for this move all the way to almost 23. But this was a big move. And Mercedes-Benz doing a deal with anybody is going to make news. And obviously this one pretty big. Yep. All right, Pete. Two airlines. The tale of two airlines. One, Delta. They fly Pete around a lot. Whenever he's not on the jet, he's on Delta. And that particular company, Pete, was $44 when they warned that the consumer is weakening. Just one more sign, I guess. And the stock fell to 44, but then it climbed to almost unchanged on the day before slipping back. That's pretty good against the backdrop, Pete. But the other is Southwest. And I'll let you tell us a little bit about that because, wow, Southwest, it's not the earnings that are moving this stock to the upside. It's something else.
Yeah, they've gotten rid of some of the things that were indicative of everything about Southwest, right? It used to be about seats, and you could go on there and you'd have this open seat policy, right? And then now it's all about bags. Well, they're going to start charging for bags. They're no longer going to be free unless you're part of a certain club. So I think there's a lot to be said about what's going on with Southwest. Yes, up about 7% today. It's still down about 10% year to date, but it's having a really nice day today. And the reason that Delta, John, is getting hammered a little bit, now it fell back a little bit. Last I looked, it was down about 6%. Well, their Q1 guidance, not so great. 30 to 50 cents is what their guidance was. The expectation was 70 to $1. So that's a bit of a problem. That's why that stock is under a little bit of pressure today. They also revised lower some of their revenue as well. So in terms of Delta, they're having not the greatest day in the world, but certainly when you look at Southwest, John, a nice lift. Now the stock's still down year to date, but it's lifted up pretty nice today, 7% off of this. And these discounters, you and I were talking about this before we came on here, these discounters in the airline world, they're not as big of discounters as they once were. And they're turning into something much different. They're starting to turn into American and Delta and UAL and some of the rest. So something to keep an eye on as well as you're out there fishing around and looking for trips to make. Yeah, well, it used to be bags fly free, Pete. Yep. And I wasn't just talking about your mother-in-law. That's so terrible. That's
old bag. But, so it used to be bags fly free. It's not anymore on Southwest. They're pulling it effective May 24th, Pete. Mm-hmm. And that's going to be a big deal. As you already said, Pete, they're also doing away with just lining up and having it be a cattle call. Instead, you're going to actually have reserved seats. Airlines make billions of dollars on baggage fees. You can see why Southwest decided, hey, you know what? Let's just start charging for bags.
Why wouldn't they?
Anyway, let's take a look also at Kohl's, Pete, because KSS reported Q4 financial results. Earnings were 95 cents. They only expected 73. So that's a thumbs up. Revenue matched. So that's kind of an iffy thing when you just match. But then they gave you their projection for where they're going to be. And I know you're going to be all over this, Pete, because the guidance was not good.
The guidance not only was not good, it was terrible. And so that's going to hammer you down, even though you had that nice number for the earnings, John. But here's the other. This is something I've been focused on now for a couple of years, and it's going to continue to extend out that way, John. But how about this? So like you said, on the earnings, yeah, they gave him 95 cents looking for 73. Here's the problem with that number, though. I really don't give a crap about what these analysts think and their 73 cents that they had out there. How about the fact that year over year it was down 9%? That was the decline of sales. So when I look at this and I look at the earnings and everything else, John, I say to myself, well, they did better than some of the really bad projections for them. But the reality is this is a company that has been absolutely spinning and spinning and spinning and getting a lot closer to the drain. I mean, let's be honest. This stock has gotten absolutely hammered. Year to date, it's down 34%. Over the last year, it's down 65%. It's down 22% today. So the fact that it's basically a single-digit stock now, John, and there has been talk in the past about somebody maybe doing a deal to try to grab them and this, that, and the other, and they've fought through that, and that has fallen off. But somebody might want to kick these tires at some point in time, but I don't know when that starts. I don't think it starts just yet, but they did not give a good quarter or guidance, John, and that's the problem.
Yeah. 8 million share turnover is normal, folks. It's already traded 25 million shares. And it's back to levels, Pete, that we haven't seen since 2020.
Yeah.
And you might recall that in 2020, we kind of were going into COVID and the total lockdowns in 21. But this thing peaked at probably 65 back as we came out of those lockdowns, Pete. And now it's back down to nine single digits. Ouch. All right. One more, Pete. Let's talk about Asana, ASAN. Sank more than 25%. News that their CEO deciding, I've had enough. I founded this thing 17 years ago, and I can't take it anymore. And he was a big dude with Meta, Pete, back in the day when it was called Facebook. He and his partner were big dudes at Facebook. So they kind of know when things aren't looking so swell. In the case of their business, it might take a while to turn this thing around. And apparently he's worn out and he says, no mas.
Yeah. Yeah, he's plenty wealthy, John. There's no doubt about that. He did a great job, obviously, back in the day. But with this particular company, I think the company itself was pretty good early on. But like you said, they've been in business now for 17 years or so. That's been a bit of a problem, and he's obviously gotten fatigued. He's gotten tired. He says he wants to now start to work at a different level and more on the charity side of things, which is wonderful because if you look at his net worth, he's done pretty well for himself, especially everything happening from Facebook back in the day, now called Meta. But you know what? When your co-founder steps away, John, that's not always a negative. But this guy's not exactly an old timer or anything. I mean, let's be honest. The whole group of the folks that started Facebook, they're fairly youthful still, as far as compared to you and I. That's for sure. So when I look at this, that's always a problem. When you lose somebody up top, you lose a founder, you lose a CEO. That's usually looked upon as something that, hey, you know what? People get a little nervous. They want to sell the stock, which is exactly what we're seeing, down 23%. And then they might test it out another time. They might want to look at it for the next couple of quarters. What does it look like? What does the leadership look like now? But they don't have those answers right now. So because of that, people are looking around. When in doubt, as they used to say on the floor, John, when in doubt, palms are out. And that's exactly what we're seeing today.
Yep, that's true. Exactly. ASAN, trading down hard. All right. Well, Pete, as usual, we're heading into the sports segment now. And I know you wanted to do a little bit on this kid, Cooper Flagg.
Yeah.
One of the most phenomenal athletes. Now, is he the next Michael Jordan? No, he is not. He is a great player, in particular, a great college player. I think it'll translate to the pros, Pete. The kid stays healthy, but hey, he might not even go for the pros this year because he could make more money at Duke playing basketball there and having all that love from all those students, some of which are, probably to his liking. I'll just leave it there, Pete. But let's take a look at Cooper Flagg for those of you who have not seen the number one team in the country very much this year.
The idea that Cooper Flagg wants to return to college basketball for another year, it's not surprising. I believe that there will be a player of Cooper Flagg's ability that is going to say no to the NBA and is going to say yes to returning to college basketball. Cooper Flagg's probably
that's amazing.
$7-8 million.
$6 or $7 mil, Pete.
Sounds crazy. We know the top college basketball players this past portal cycle were
it's
getting
amazing.
$+ million.
The money in pro sports right now.
You think he's wearing New Balances for free? This is where I believe a player of Cooper Flagg's
pretty amazing.
Come back.
I'm not unhappy that these kids are getting paid, Pete.
No,
because they're packing those arenas.
Absolutely.
Now, his arena is not terribly big. I get it. Duke is a small arena, and it's special because it's small. And the kids camp out to get in there, Pete. The freaking students have to camp out. But this team, Indiana, North Carolina, there are teams that fill up big arenas. Your Gophers, 18, 19,000 people in the arena.
Yeah.
Why shouldn't they be getting a little taste of that? And why should they have to wait till they're in the NBA to get it? But that kid, Pete, I know you've got more on him, but Cooper's special kid.
He's a special kid. And John, honestly, I'm not trying to put him all the way up there in the Bo Jackson world, because Bo did it in every single sport. And you and I have talked about him many times. I consider him the greatest athlete of all time. Anywhere. And there's some that are kind of close, quite frankly. But when you really look at what he did in track, what you did in baseball, what he did in football, and all the things that Bo Jackson was able to do, this kid's not that. He's a basketball player. But let me tell you something. He is the best basketball player right now in college by a country mile. And he's on the number one team. All they do is dominate the people that they play, right? Now, here's the thing that makes it interesting to me. It is a team. It's Duke, right? Duke is always somewhere in that top 5. Right now, they're number 1. But they're always there, and they always have a full team. But what if I told you that every single major statistic for basketball this year is Cooper Flagg time? John, he leads the team in points scored. He leads them in rebounds. He leads in assists. He leads in steals. He leads in blocks. He does everything. He's 49% field goal percentage, 38% on three-point shooting, and 83% on the free throws. The kid leads the team in just about every single – take something out, and the kid does it. And when you watch him, John, he plays street basketball. He's not just some, kid down at Duke that's got a pipe in his mouth or something like that. This kid is a street basketball player. He could play for any other school and just about anybody in the NBA. And I think wherever and whenever he chooses to go, he's going to be really special. And I think it's a difficult decision to stay back and stay at Duke. But if the money's right and some of the other deals that he's got are right already, I think this kid, the sky is the limit, and it's great. If you're the Duke head coach, how happy would you be if this kid came back? It's unbelievable. His size is already there. He already plays with that swagger. Any game you watch when he's playing in it, he is the guy who stands out. It doesn't matter who they're playing. I watched them against North Carolina the other night, and the kid absolutely was just all over the place. Started off a little quiet. All of a sudden, the next thing you know, he takes over. And, John, the guy does everything on the court. Absolutely everything. So, fun player to watch. I'll tell you, in college basketball right now, he doesn't have anybody who's comparable to what he looks like right now. The guy is absolutely amazing. So
yeah, and he's not just allergic to leather,
right,
as they say. So some of those players, folks, as you know, if you're a sports fan, doesn't matter if it's Caitlin Clark or Cooper Flagg. Some of the folks don't share the ball, don't pass it around, don't play defense. This kid plays defense. As you heard, he's leading the team in assists, which means he's not a pig.
Right.
And he's leading the team in scoring. So, I think you picked the right guy here, Pete.
Yeah.
All right, what else you got?
All right, so free agency has really kicked off and things are going crazy. You and I had a little bit of a discussion about this. We could do it every day, quite frankly, because every day it's just dominant in what's happening. But I thought it would be kind of fun, John. I'll pick out a couple, and then you tell me, maybe give me a ranking of who's number 1 of this group. So Buffalo, what has Buffalo done so far? Well, you signed your quarterback, Josh Allen, to the biggest contract in the history of football. 6 years, $330 million. Not so bad. They also, 2 wide receivers, Palmer and Sakir, are back. Their edge rusher, they've done a couple of linebackers. They kept the guys that they think make this team the team that they are, on offense and defense. And then you go over to the Kansas City Chiefs. All they did, John, was they re-signed their offensive tackle. They re-signed their offensive guard. They kept their linebacker in Nick Bolton, who's an underrated, really good, fast middle linebacker who plays for them. Just a heck of a player. The Raiders, I think, interesting too, John, and here's why. You get Geno Smith. Geno Smith's numbers are a lot better than people think. I think the problem for him is he's never on the national stage. Even though they were a 10-7 team up in Seattle just last year. I mean, that's a team that basically, you're talking about, are you a playoff team? They're right there. I mean, and they don't have all the pieces to the puzzle. Well, the Raiders don't have all the pieces either. One of the pieces they were missing was a quarterback. They got him. They got Max Crosby on a huge contract as an edge rusher. They also signed another edge rusher in Kuntz. So they've done it all, and 2 safeties that are probably as good a safeties as there is in football. I'd say the Raiders have done well. Your Chicago Bears did a great job. They signed a guard. They signed a center. They're actually trying to protect your quarterback before he gets killed. That's the most important thing that they needed to do. They got receivers. They got plenty of receivers, but you can't throw the ball to the receivers if you're getting hit, right? So they improved the offensive line. I thought that was good too. The Vikings did something very similar. They signed a guard. They signed a center. They got a couple of guys out of the Colts that are very good. They got a big kid out of the Washington Commanders, whatever the hell you want to call them these days, as a D lineman, who lost a lot of people, John, the Philadelphia Eagles. They lost C.J. Gardner-Johnson. They lost Slade. They lost Milton. They lost Sweat. They lost cornerback Rodgers, not Aaron Rodgers, the cornerback Rodgers. So, Philly is going to be interesting because we give all the credit in the world to Howie and how he's built this team. They lost a lot of guys just yesterday in free agency. That makes them a lot more vulnerable, I think, for the future. But this guy's good. He's going to get some guys, either in the draft or maybe free agency himself. But who do you like, John? I'll tell you, I lean towards the Raiders, to be honest with you, when I look at it. I like what the Bears did, the Vikings did. Kansas City did the right thing. Buffalo did the right thing. But I think the Raiders might have changed their luck by having an actual quarterback who, when you really look at it, John, he's probably a top 5 or 6 quarterback in the league. I know people don't look at him that way, but when you go through and you look at the numbers that he's put up over the last 5 years or so, pretty damn good.
And Gino's lucky to be the hell out of Seattle, Pete.
Yes.
Because, when Metcalf leaves and so forth, that's a lot of production right there, that kid. And he's going to the Steelers. We all know that. But I think, Pete, that Cousins is in for a rude awakening. I love the kid. I felt bad for him being the overall number 1 and then, getting trashed by the Jets and so forth. Goes to Minnesota, has a renaissance. And partially he had a renaissance, Pete, the same reason that Cousins had a renaissance. Mm-hmm. And that was, you got a hell of a lot of receivers.
Yeah.
You got Justin Jefferson. You got a great tight end out of Iowa. Mm-hmm. I mean, you got some running backs that can take the pressure off, so it's not just a passing set. I think you go to Seattle now and you don't have the receivers anymore, Pete.
Right.
They're not on the same page. It's not like just a 1-step downgrade. It's like they went down 2 steps.
Yeah.
Because, tight end, not nearly the same. Wide receivers, not nearly the same. Running back, not nearly the same. So Darnold could end up looking a lot more like the Darnold that we saw with the Jets.
Yeah.
Not his fault, but he could end up looking a lot more like that Sam Darnold, Pete, than the Vikings Sam Darnold. That was my opinion.
Yeah, they lost a lot of talent, John. They really did. You're exactly right. And that's going to be a problem. They do have a couple of decent running backs. I'll push back a little bit on that. They got a couple of decent running backs that I like. But I think you're right. I mean, from a receiver standpoint, they got 1. They literally got 1. The rest of them are all a bunch of who is this guy? Who's that guy or whatever. So to your point, I mean, that is a problem. And I think that's why Gino was really easily persuaded to go to the Raiders. He's like, I'm in and I'm out.
Yeah. And now they got Devontae, Pete.
Yep.
So he's got somebody to throw the ball to. I mean, it didn't work out with the Jets. I get it, with Aaron Rodgers and the Jets, but that's a lot of issues.
Yeah.
I think with Pete Carroll out in Las Vegas, Pete, and you and I will be out there in a week.
Yeah.
I think Pete Carroll's delighted to have the anchor back on defense, Crosby, and to have Geno Smith at quarterback that has several good years ahead of him. Because Pete Carroll's not building it for the next decade, Pete.
No.
He's building it to win now.
So, you're right. You and I should go over to practice. Well, they don't have practice this time of year, but we should go over to their facility, John. I'm not kidding. I mean, Pete Carroll's He coached when I was at the Vikings. He was the defensive back coach. That's how old I am and how old he is. But great guy. And I'll tell you, everywhere he goes, he does well. Pete Carroll can turn things around pretty rapidly. And this will have to be a very rapid one because let's be honest, he's getting up there in age. You know, I mean, I don't know where he is in his 70s, but he's in his 70s. So you know what? He's in that win now mode as well.
Yeah. Well, dial him up, Pete, because you and I will be out there for RebelCon 2025. Yep. So dial him up, see if he wants to meet with us on Friday or something. We'll shoot a little content out there with him in the stadium. That's a beautiful stadium. All right. Thanks for joining us today, folks. Remember, RebelCon comes your way in just over a week. It's Saturday, the 22nd of March. We'd love to see you there. We've got some great strategies to help you out. Check it out at marketrebellion.com/RebelCon or scan that QR code. And we'll see you tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern Time.